Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Films and Stuff podcast. I am Ethan, brought to you by the letter P for Pete. What's up, Pete?
How are you, Ethan?
Everything's good. It is time, I think, that everyone needs to sit back, relax, and listen to us on one of our patent pending rambles, formerly known as a patent pending, what do we call them? A diatribe or tangent? But I think we've been using rambles lately where we just talk about a bunch of stuff that we're watching and give our opinions.
I love it. So what are we talking about today?
Let's start with the world of cinema, because you have seen what was supposed to be your number 2 movie this summer. that I'm not going to let you down. As our listeners know, Pete and I chose what we thought were going to be the top 10 movies of summer. Pete went out on a little bit of a limb, chose Garfield as number 2. He was temporarily possessed by
Garfield and lasagna.
By Garfield. You've seen The Orange Cat and his sidekick. What's his sidekick? Opie or Odie?
Odie, yeah.
Odie. Tell me, how was the Garfield movie?
I saw it. It was fine. It was okay. I mean, look,
Okay.
which is to say it was a skip.
Was it funny? Did you laugh?
There were a couple moments that made me laugh,
Okay.
but meh, it was okay. Animation was beautiful. I thought the movie looked stunning. But that's not exactly the first thing you want to think of when you see a movie, is the animation looked good, but the movie was pants. And that's kind of what it was. It was another movie with Chris Pratt starring as the lead voice.
As
Right.
Garfield.
And as
Yep.
Garfield. Plot was silly. Samuel L. Jackson plays Garfield's dad.
Huh.
And Hannah Waddingham plays the bad guy.
Now, the other animated movie that I would not mind seeing is Sausage Party 2, Foodtopia.
Oh, man. Did you like the first one?
I don't think I ever saw the first one.
Oh,
Was
man.
it funny?
The first one was, I don't know, man. If I could walk out of a movie theater, because I don't remember watching it in the cinema, I would have.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like it. I thought it was grotesque for the sake of being grotesque. Not
Seth
my
Rogen,
bag.
right? That's Seth Rogen. Yeah. All right. That's the animated portion of this episode. Let's get into live
Let's get
action.
into the real meat and bones of this thing.
I've got 4 things that I've watched this week.
Okay.
I'm caught up on season 4 of The Boys on Amazon Prime, which I love. I have somehow suffered through Disney Plus's The Acolyte. I have finished season 3 of The Bear on Hulu Disney Plus, and I am up to speed on House of the Dragon. What of those have you watched and compels you to say a few thoughts?
So I've watched all of them.
Okay.
I, like you, am caught up through 6 episodes of The Acolyte. 7 are out so far. The last episode comes out next week. So on the plus side, no more Acolyte as of next week.
Spoilers. Spoilers are coming, both in terms of plot and our feelings about
Star Wars.
Acolyte. Yeah.
This show has really made me down on Star Wars.
Is this a Star Wars show?
I mean, on paper, yes.
Yeah.
But in spirit, I don't think so.
Not at all.
I feel like the show has been really poor. And I think that it's done a lot to denigrate the idea of the Jedi.
It's kind of made the Jedi appear bureaucratic, bumbling, and not terribly skilled, and not even really like morally superior. And it's kind of made the Sith seem more interesting and in some ways sympathetic, right?
I don't know. There's no good guys in this, in the sense that everyone comes out looking look, first of all, we both, and by we I mean you specifically, called it exactly. The Sith guy is exactly who we thought it was going to be, that shopkeeper dude.
Oh my God. How
So that
boring was
reveal
that
was
reveal?
so pathetic.
So pathetic.
One. Two, there has been a number of gratuitous shots of shirtless Jedi and Sith in this for no good reason.
Yeah.
I'm not rooting for the Jedi. I'm not
What
rooting
am I
for the
supposed to
Sith.
think?
I'm not rooting for anybody.
If you create a series like this, knowing that it's Star Wars, I think you have to provide more information about a story, right? Think of Andor. You're providing story. Or you have to put some context or sympathy to a character. What is the point of the Acolyte? Like if Kathleen Kennedy was sat down, what is she saying is the point of the Acolyte?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I don't know what it's doing. Nothing to advance Star Wars.
No, I would say it's dragging it back. It makes me now rethink even episode 1.
You're not adding any color. The good thing about Andor is that it gives you a lot of background and color on the Resistance.
Yes. So granular.
Right? And you get to understand how the Resistance works. Rogue One was very good about how they got the information that kicked off episode 4.
That's right.
So it all added to the mythos. It all
Yes.
added to the story in an appreciably good way.
Yes. Before they even wrote the script, it's like they sat down and they said, hey, what's the purpose? What's the outcome? They agreed on the outcome and they wrote a story to get to that destination, right? Acolyte does not have that.
Yes. I think somebody in Kathleen Kennedy's office needs to ask that first question is why?
Yeah.
And if you ask that question of all of these shows, with the exception of The Acolyte, at least every show we've seen so far gives you a good answer for the why. And I'm not saying that these shows pull it off, right? Like Obi-Wan gives you a good why, but I don't think it pulled it off very well.
No.
Andor gives you not just a why, but it pulls it off incredibly well. Like we want
Yes.
to know how the Death Star was made, where it was made, why it was made, who made it.
Yeah.
All these things add to that granularity. Like, we were wondering what these things are for. I'm struggling to understand what these space witches are supposed to be doing in the mythos. I don't recall them being mentioned in any of the other movies or any of the other TV shows.
Yeah.
Nowhere are any of these characters mentioned in any of the other movies or shows, even in the future. So that means to me that they're going to have no impact.
Yeah.
Or that they've had no impact at all to the Star Wars that we know or love. So the big question again is why?
I feel really disappointed by, when we work backwards from episodes 4, 5, 6, and then we had 1, 2, 3, the Jedi were really intended to be, 1, morally good, and 2, extraordinarily skilled.
Yes.
Right? Even in episode 3, we were meant to have a lot of sympathy for slain Padawans and younglings. There was a sense that they were good.
And it took literally millions of clones to take them down.
Correct. Now with the Acolyte, I think the biggest disappointment has been they've made the Jedi feel not special, both in skill, which I feel like their skills are just up and down, like so inconsistent. And in terms of their moral compass, I think has really been called into question. Their leadership has been called into question. They used to just be kind of like the good sheriff in town, making sure that, no bullies were picking on people. And now we see them a little bit more as this like shadow government bureaucracy.
And there was some bureaucracy even in episodes 1 and 2, right? I mean, we saw the politics, we saw all that. We saw the council, we saw all of that. But that was the kind of the point, was that in those episodes, at least, we already discussed that you guys became lazy and arrogant, and that's what allowed the Sith to thrive.
That's right.
That was kind of I don't want to say the moral, but that was, the whole point of those. So why do we see more of that? Why is there more of that in this, and for what benefit?
Yeah. I have to say, I think the Acolyte is dramatically miscast. And I don't say that to denigrate or humiliate any of the individual actors who clearly, are like, they've worked hard for these roles, and of course they want them. But I feel like just when you look at Soul and his hodgepodge group of people that are surrounding him, everyone is weird. Like, they used to just be kind of like aliens weird, but now they're just like generally weird, There's the lady in green, who I think is actually very good. And then she's kind of got like this British personal assistant. I think he's very, very weak as a Jedi. Like, he can be a personal assistant, but I don't see why he's a Jedi.
Yeah.
Then you've got Soul, who we've identified already has a massive conflict of interest and has very up and down skills. Like, we see him maybe being a good fighter, terrible with his instincts, awful decision maker, right?
How does he not know that May and what's her face have switched? Osha.
Yeah. He's totally missed that they've switched. His whole crew has been killed. He took a civilian, led his whole team to get slaughtered, escaped, didn't even save the bodies. Why would he leave without the bodies? And where is he going? He doesn't even know who he's got. And now it seems like he's got like this deep, dark secret that he's got to like get off his chest.
Which I'm sure will get cleared up in the 7th and 8th episodes.
Disappointing. The whole thing is, what did you think, if we get back to Star Wars roots, what did you think of the lightsaber fight scene between Sith, Shopkeeper, and everybody else? Good action sequence?
Not bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Still disappointing that he was able to force push all of them. Yeah. I don't know. I just was hoping for more of an even fight, considering how vastly outnumbered they were. I don't know. I just thought it was...
I mean, again, it makes the either Sith is like extraordinarily powerful, right? And we see the evolution, and then he's kind of like one of one. Or we see that the Jedi are just not even special. They're just a random hodgepodge group of people that have some type of military training, right?
I guess we'll see next week, because I haven't watched the 7th episode. I will watch the 7th and 8th back to back, just kind of knock it out and finish it off.
But the bigger issue is you and I are both kind of to negative on the Acolyte, and that's not good.
That's really bad.
I don't think I could get my brother to watch this. I don't think I could get my sister to watch this. I don't think they're invested enough in Star Wars. And unlike Mandalorian and the cuteness of Baby Yoda, I don't see that there's any point of why they would watch this.
There's nothing redeeming.
No, there's nothing redeeming about this. They don't like the characters. They don't know the story. It's just a sci-fi journey is what it is at the end of the day.
And not even a good one.
Not even a good one. All right, enough about Acolyte. What do you want to hit next? If we're going in alphabetical order, Bear comes before Boys.
What did you think of The Bear, now that you've watched it?
I mean, The Bear is absolutely a work of art.
Yeah.
Whether or not it is your style of work of art, you absolutely have to say, unlike The Acolyte, the creators of The Bear sat down and said, this is the message we want to do. They wanted to make this, I think, an homage to culinary art.
100%.
Even though I don't recognize a lot of these celebrity chefs, you can tell that these are real people. They're really paying homage to them. And, you know, what inspires them and what pushes them to, you know, to innovate, to create, to serve. it is really, I think, an old school, work of art. The camera with the food porn and the way that they've shown the different dishes, it absolutely has a great style and a great purpose. In terms of the storytelling, I think the storytelling in this season 3 is a little bit less compelling because it's focused so much on some very, very deep personal demons or relationships, such as between Sugar and her mom, for example.
Yeah.
Like that was an amazing episode from an acting perspective. That seemed, I mean, those are two strangers, right? You absolutely believed that they were mother-daughter going through childbirth, working through all of their emotional issues, right?
Yeah.
These are not people who are related. They don't even know each other. Fantastic acting, but boring episode. I'm not interested in watching mother-daughter work through their emotional angst, in a hospital bed, despite the fact that artistically it was fantastic. What Carmine is going through, obviously, he's having a lot of self-doubt. He's reflecting, trying to find his way, working through this issue with Care Bear. Not as interesting as some of the prior, journeys that he's been on. Sydney, obviously going through a lot of issues. I don't find it compelling, right? I mean, should she stay? Should she go? She's obviously having a very hard time, and it's not easy to sort out, what is her motivation or what she's worried about or not worried about. I think Richie is probably my favorite character. A lot of focus on the Fack brothers, which are supposed to be kind of like, like a Dumb and Dumber, like comedy trope. But I think we've seen a little bit too much of them. They're better in small doses, and I think we've gotten a little bit too much of them. So I think that from an artistic perspective, season 3 is a masterpiece. From an entertainment perspective, I don't know how much I got out of it.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The second season I thought was superior. I thought the first season was superior.
Yes.
In terms of visual fidelity, the third has been the best so far.
Fantastic.
That first episode I thought was an absolute killer. I thought it was just fantastic. But I totally agree with you. I think it's still a must subscribe to me, but only because I think there's more to come in season 4 that'll close a lot of the loops that we're seeing in season 3.
Can I do a hot take?
Go on.
Is this a creator who's kind of gotten too big for their britches? And instead of telling a Chicago story about a chef from French Laundry who comes back to run an Italian beef restaurant, is now about, hey, let's see how many close-ups we can have of tweezers putting on micro onions or micro beets or whatever. How many celebrity chefs can I get and interview them so that they can say something so profound that captures the essence of culinary art? Are they now too big for their britches because of the success of season 1, season 2, and now they're just kind of going off on this tangent and they're larger than life? And they've kind of lost what is the point of this for the viewer? Maybe.
You'll also notice there's a lot more celebrity cameos.
Yeah.
I mean, John Cena came in out of nowhere.
Yeah. For no good reason, by the way.
Yeah.
He added nothing to that episode. And in fact, it was weird. All the haunting talk, it added nothing.
Yeah. I would suggest that they should cut back on the celebrity cameos and just focus on the show.
I think Richie's been such a good development, and I kind of feel like Richie's going to get together with this lady from the restaurant. Anyway, I love the bear, but I guess I want to see more of a journey. That season 1 was a journey to Carmine getting into the Italian beef restaurant, and it all culminated at the end where you open the cans and actually they have money, right?
Yeah.
Season 2 culminated. The journey was, hey, we've got to open up this restaurant. Season 3 should have been more about, we've got to get this right. He's got a team of people that have been cooking down onions and Italian beef and basically sandwiches.
Yeah.
Right. And he's got to get them to, it should have been a little bit more about like him getting people to the level that they needed to be, getting the menu right, and him trying to find his voice in terms of, look, everything can't be like this micro cabbage and like little things. I want to make something that's a little bit more like Chicago, a little bit of like elegant spin on the bear. And it would have been fun for him to kind of like find his voice, but he's just gone straight back into like
the French
ultra.
Laundry.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And I thought that that's where they were going where Marcus comes in and said, promise me you'll get us there.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so they're going to go for a Michelin star, but they're going to go with like total local Chicago, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, that one episode we saw in season 2 where Richie was working at that Olivia Colman restaurant and like they did like this thing with like deep dish pizza, right? Like I thought it was going to be something like that where he was going to say, look, I worked at French Laundry. I worked at all these great places that tore me up inside. I'm not looking to do this with the tweezers. I've done that already. I've got my star. I want to create something that's mine. I want to do it something that's, homage to my brother, Mikey, what he started. And he was going to do like some type of like Michelin star Italian beef, and he was going to like do his spin on it. And he was trying to find like that balance. That would have been more interesting to me. But honestly, all they did was they switched into food porn. Everything's like on these small little plates with like, apricot reductions or cherry reductions. And I think it's just kind of like jumped the shark in terms of, where I thought it was going to go. That being said, still love the bear. Can't say love the season,
Yeah. Still super compelling to watch, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think they've drilled down into the wrong aspect of the bear that made us all love it. Don't get me wrong, I love seeing all the food stuff too, but save that for 1 or 2 episodes in a flashback.
Yeah.
And we kind of got that, right? Like when he did that with Will Poulter in Copenhagen.
Yes.
When he was in New York, we saw all that in the past.
Yes.
Let's leave it there.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what the other part is of this, which I think we should either focus on or drop it. This thing with the uncle, with the computer, and with like the budgeting. Either I'd like to really get into that and show how complicated it is to have a profitable restaurant and show all the challenges they have sourcing foods, or leave it out entirely.
Yeah.
Because just like every episode, like bitching about like cost and stuff is not really that enjoyable anymore.
Yeah.
I think they should focus either one way or another. It's kind of like become a little bit dull now.
I mean, we're numbers guys. It would be good for us. It would be fun for us to watch all that. Yeah. Let's see if that's what they do, but I doubt that they're going to go that way.
Yeah. Okay. That's the bear. Next up is season 4 of The Boys. Everyone's favorite superheroes.
Yeah.
How do we say it? Our great theory was that Sister Sage was going to kind of stage a coup, and she was going to be kind of like trying to, I guess, overcome Homelander's leadership and power, right? And now Sister Sage is out.
Well, is she though?
Is she though?
I suspect what's going to happen now is the boys are going to try to recruit her.
I think the same thing.
Because now that she's out, she's not in the good graces anymore, and Firecracker is, for very gross reasons.
So gross, it's amazing though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, God bless Firecracker and those writers.
I'm enjoying the show, but I think it's a little too on the nose a little bit.
It's definitely veered into a political place.
And not just a political place, but more specifically, like very much an American political, this is what's wrong with America in 2024 place.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of the evolution, and maybe it's not so supposed to be surprising because there's not that much more you can do with the storylines, especially now that we know that Homelander is kind of like all powerful, right? But yeah. I mean, it's definitely gone into this political place. We've talked about, no matter how you feel about the issues, it's not really where you want to go to like consume these issues, right? Abortion by Starlight, Homelander's son, doing the, rat out your parents if they're, not good Americans and all this other stuff, irrespective of your position on them. It's just a little bit uncomfortable in a show like this. It's not adding anything. The Victoria Newman angle, I guess, is a little bit interesting, right? Where she's kind of trying to stage a coup. And I think that's the better angle, which is humans versus soups, which gets us back into that. This is kind of like Secret Invasion, right? Yeah. I mean, it should be more of the soups versus humans. That, I think, is the better angle and more interesting than just kind of like this massive, politically inspired, divisive power grab by Homelander. Yeah. And honestly, what's really annoying about this whole thing is that Homelander is all powerful. He could just end this. I don't know why he just doesn't laser all these guys. He doesn't care about killing people at all. I mean, we've seen him now being very openly vindictive. Why doesn't he just go get Mother's Milk and Huey and whatever the other dude's name is, right?
That's kind of what they were trying to do in that last episode. Where they sent the deep and noir. I mean, they sent the wrong people, but still.
Yeah, they definitely sent the wrong people. I mean, the deep is, so he killed his girlfriend.
That was brutal. Yeah, also kind of funny, but also brutal.
It was funny because he did it for Sister Sage. And then immediately after he does it, he finds out the Sister Sage is
also seeing Black Noir.
And even to make it worse, she doesn't need the lobotomy to do it.
Yeah.
It's like a double, I'm being cheated on, and
she needs to be really stupid. Yeah.
Absolutely. So The Boys is still going across good. I would still, for me, it's a must subscribe. I still love it, but it's definitely not my favorite season.
It is going to sound bad, but I'm glad that this is the penultimate season because there's only so much more I can take of this.
You're right. I want it to end when I want more. I want it to end in a good way,
Exactly. So I think that there's only so much more of The Boys I can take, and I don't think I can take more than another 8 or 10 episodes.
I agree. Even the violence is starting to become a little bit it used to have a lot of shock value, and now it's just a little bit just blood, So, okay, moving on from The Boys. House of the Dragon. Where are you? What do you think? I am all in for so many reasons.
Yeah.
For so many reasons. First of all, we saw the most recent episode where we had our first aerial dragon fight, right?
Yeah.
I was reading an article about it on The Ringer, which I think is a good website with great coverage of TV shows. And they explained to me that remember before the Queen That Never Was, she was sitting in the dragon's lair with Malus. And she says something to Malus, they've got this very, very touching moment, almost a Top Gun-ish moment, where she's got her head leaning against her dragon's head. And she's saying, hey, old girl, time for us to go to battle again, right? If they would have played a good song in the background, I probably would have cried. But then I was reading something about it, and I caught it at the time, but I was reading something about it that really captured my thought, which is, how has this lady ever gone into battle with her dragon before? We've been told that there's been 80 years of peace in the realm, right? So I read about it, and apparently Martin made the mistake himself, that originally he did write that line in the books that, hey, time to go to battle again. But then apparently when he was writing a different book and looking back on it, he removed the line because he realized, given the history that he wrote of the realm, it wouldn't make sense. There could be no battles. Maybe Malus has been in a battle, but Rhaena has not been in a battle with Malus. I watched episodes 1 and 2 again of season 1, just to remind myself of how this all came about. And 1 and 2 captivated me and really reminded me of how this whole blacks versus greens came about. And I have to say, I have a very, very new appreciation for House of the Dragon. And I think this last episode was super cool in terms of the tactics and the kind of the 3-way fight I think we're gearing up for, right?
Where's the third battle?
I think Matt Smith, Damon, is going to be his own team now.
Oh, maybe.
I think he's going to realize he is not supportive of Rhaenyra, that he is the heir to the throne, and I think he's not going to support her anymore. He's going to take Harrenhal, which he has now. He's going to get his own army, and he's going to say, Harrenhal is now the seat of the realm. I'm taking over.
Where do you see Otto Hightower in this?
I guess I haven't considered Otto Hightower so much because he's been demoted as the hand, but now it makes a little bit of sense. If he's been kicked out of the Greens, he would be a natural, I guess, second in command to Daemon, right? Even though him and Daemon, those two dramatically disliked each other in episodes 1 and 2. But that being said, Aegon's dead, so maybe now Aemon brings Hightower back.
I don't think Aegon dies, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's just grievously injured.
Why do you think that? And I'll tell you why I don't think that. Why do you think that?
Because I think that'll make for a better show.
The weird thing was when Aemond went, he had his sword drawn, and I felt he was like, I'm going to end it. And then he saw him, and he's like, nothing to end. It's already done.
Oh, no, I thought he didn't end it because Kristen Cole came in.
I don't know. But Aemond would be a much more formidable leader of the Greens, for sure. I mean, both because of the size of his dragon and his intellect and his skill, right?
Well, I think he'd be a better wartime guy, yeah.
He'd be a better wartime guy. He'd be a better foe for Daemon. That's, I think, a very good three-way battle, which is going to be Rhaenyra, Daemon, and Aemond. All three with big dragons. These are the strongest three in the realm, right? If you had to choose a leader now, these would be the three that would now have the claim to the throne. Viserys' brother, Viserys' daughter, Viserys' son. I mean, we know a little bit how it ends, right? Because it's 172 years before Daenerys Targaryen, right? And we know that there's no dragons. These three have to have a mutually assured destruction where somehow they kill all their dragons.
Yep.
Which, if you think about it, is just such a sad situation, you know? So I think this is going to be a three-way. So what did you think of? I thought Rhaena, who is one of my favorite characters, died a little bit unceremoniously and a little bit stupidly. I don't think she needed to rush into that battle when she kind of already escaped. I felt like she should have got out of there, you know? Yeah.
I don't think it was necessary to go for that second strafing run.
No, especially when you see the difference between the dragons.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was a very, very dramatic turn of events, right? I mean, you've basically now seen the first time that the two dragons are, you know, the first time that, you know, a big dragon has killed another dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely you can see Rhaenyra why she is going to lose, right? I mean, we know how this ends. We just don't know exactly how it ends, but we see how it ends for her. She's got no army. She's got a bad reputation. She lost her best advisor. She lost her husband. Her right now to the throne is basically reliant on her and her dragon. That's the only thing that she's got going for her, right?
Yeah.
Everything else is out of favor. She can just destroy everybody individually with her dragon. She doesn't have any support. Daemon's obviously going to get a little bit of support just because he's a jerk and he's a little bit strong, and doesn't have any support. He will have an army and he has his dragon, right?
What do you think's going on with Daemon right now? Because he's starting to see people in his sleep, right? Or he's got those nightmares and then he's seeing, he's hallucinating people.
I think his morality is starting to catch up with him, right? And he's seeing all the horrible things that he's done. And it's from killing his first wife to, you know, undermining Rhaenyra, you know, to kind of undermining his brother. I think it's starting to take a toll. And Harrenhal is supposed to be haunted, right? And I think that all the crap that he's done is starting to catch up with him. He's losing his edge a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But
he's seeing his own, not just mortality, but how he's, you know, kind of alienated everyone around him. And he has, right? I mean, he killed his first wife. Second wife died. Viserys, he, you know, has no relationship with her whatsoever. Rhaenyra is out. He doesn't have any relationship with his kids. I mean, I think we're seeing just how lonely he is. And I think that's going to lead to like a lot of desperation and a lot of like very, very aggressive actions by him. Things are not great for the Greens. I think they've still lost their king. Aemond will be a much stronger king, and he has one dragon. And, Kristen Cole seems still able. And, he's still got his mom, Alicent, who's got things under control. But I think the Greens are definitely in the strongest position right now.
I don't know how this drags on for 3 more seasons.
That's a very good question. There may just be a stalemate where Daemon has Harrenhal, Rhaenyra stays in her corner, and Aemond now starts to govern, right? And Otto Hightower manipulates everybody against everybody. But I agree, it's supposed to be 3 more seasons.
I heard it was either 4 or 5 seasons in total, and I don't know how they're going to stretch it out.
I think I've repeatedly said this. Season 1 went too fast.
Yeah. I think they can maybe do 1 more season. I mean, they're in the thick of it now already.
This was a dramatic battle. We lost 2 dragons and potentially a king. The way I saw that episode end, I thought Aegon died.
Interesting, because I didn't.
But what we did see was we saw for the first time, maybe not the first time, but we saw a lot of dislike between those 2 brothers.
Yeah.
Mostly Aemond, who dramatically disliked his.
Yeah.
And usually we haven't seen that, right? I mean, if you look at the distinction between Viserys and Daemon, Viserys was more measured. Daemon was much more aggressive, but Viserys was still very competent, right? And not a partier, whereas Daemon was more of a partier. And here you see the difference. Aemond you see as physically superior. You see him as much more strategic. He knows Valerian much better. He's much more intelligent. Even when he goes to the brothel, he sees the same woman all the time.
Yeah.
Like, he actually seems like more of a family man. By all accounts, Aemond is the stronger, more superior brother in kind of every way, right? And Aegon is older, less wise, less disciplined,
more brash,
and had the smaller dragon. So Aemond is far and away the more formidable foe. If we're going to have a stalemate for 3 years, this is where the stalemate is.
Too tiring to think about for 3 more years. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
1 more season, sure, but 3, it's tough.
I have to say, I enjoyed watching episodes 1 and 2 of season 1 all over again. Like, it really reminded me of how Viserys kind of mucked this all up. And, the reasons why Rhaenyra was not the queen, right? I mean, she was we talked about this like 2 years ago. She was a very bratty kid.
Yeah.
That she had the opportunity. She should have gotten married, and, she should have taken her duties more seriously, but she was very pouty and grumpy the whole time. For that reason, she didn't have anyone behind her. And you see that with her small council now. She just doesn't have any support. She's actually turned into maybe the most pragmatic leader. She'd probably be the best now. But when she was a kid, she was horrible. And she alienated Alicent, which probably could have been overcome as well had they maintained a closer relationship. Awkward when your best friend is your mom. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Pete, what do we have to watch for next week? Tokyo Vice, Shogun, Outer Range.
Well, the finale for Acolyte is up next week. The finale for The Boys is up next week.
Let's do it. Anything cinema side coming out?
Oh, big news.
Tell me.
Horizon Chapter 2 has been pulled from the cinema.
Oh, that's right. Kevin Costner.
Chapter 1 did so poorly that Chapter 2 was pulled. That was supposed to come out in August.
That's a huge blow to Kevin Costner, huh?
He apparently put in $40 million of his own money into making this movie.
He really likes these Westerns, huh?
Yeah, he loves them.
Having not seen part 1, I can only say I'm disappointed because I like the idea of seeing a June, August part 1, part 2.
Yeah.
I wish that would have worked because I think it would be cool to see Dune part 2 in July and Dune part 3 in September. I think it'd be interesting to see Mission Impossible, like part 1 and part 2. I liked that idea. I wish it would have worked for that idea. As a Western with Kevin Costner.
Less interesting.
Nope. All right, Pete. All right, listeners. Appreciate all your buy-in today. It was a good ramble, huh?
Yeah.
Listeners, we need some feedback.
Yep. Everyone reach out to us, tweet at us at FNS Podcast, DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. But as always, leave a comment below, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. All of that helps us out.
We would love it. And we are signing off for this week. We will be back next week with a Films and Stuff episode and one of our stream or skip segments as well. So stay tuned for both of those dropping next week. Pete, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you on the flip side. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.